In this video, I'm going to talk about an issue that thousands of people all over the world had trouble with in regards to having back control, and that is keeping your hooks in when you have the back control. And in other videos, I'm going to talk about how keeping your hooks in isn't actually the most important aspect of having back control as well. But in this video, I want to focus on some tips to help you keep your hooks in a little bit longer, so in that way you can focus more on attacking your opponent with your hands and your arms. So I'm gonna have Russ's back here. Now the first thing before I continue is we are not gonna do the video from here, okay? What I mean is we're not gonna do the video with me just sitting up like this, because this is just not realistic. I'm guilty of doing this in the past, teaching lots of techniques with my my partner sitting up like this, and sometimes I still do so that way people can get a better view. But it's extremely rare, like I mean extremely rare, to the point where this pretty much never happens where you're just sitting like this in a roll. Most people teach techniques like this, but you just don't, this doesn't happen in a roll. So, and I could talk about that in another video. So what we're gonna do, we're either gonna be on this side here, which is your strong side, okay? Or we're gonna be, turn this way, on this side, which is your weak side, all right? Now the reason why this is the weak side is because your opponent's shoulder is free here, and it gives them the ability to start wiggling their shoulder to the mat. And the reason why this is the strong side is because their shoulder is no longer free, so now they have a much harder time turning their body and freeing their upper body out. But if you notice, regardless of the side they're on, when your opponent starts turning their hip here, it actually starts making the hook that's closest to the mat shallow. Okay, so as he starts turning his hip here, the hook starts becoming shallow. This hook up here is still inside, so that's not really an issue. But this hook that's closest to the mat starts becoming shallow, and he didn't even touch my foot with his hand. If you start adding that in, it starts becoming more of an issue, and my hooks start coming out. Same exact thing will happen if we're on the weak side. So if I have the back here, and I have this position, and I'm on the weak side, if he twists his hips, right, once again my hook starts becoming shallow. This hook is still up front and inside. It's the bottom hook here that becomes much of an issue. And then if he starts using his left hand to start pushing at my ankle, it starts freeing his hips and gives him the ability to start working to get out. And it's even worse when he's on your weak side, which is technically his strong side, because he has freedom with his upper body. The fact that he has freedom with his upper body gives him the ability to get an even more useful escape for him. So let's address this particular situation here, especially with the fact that, like, you're either leaning to one side. You're very rarely sitting up. You're either leaning to the strong side, the weak side, or you're going to be backwards. What I mean by backwards is you're going to be like this here, where you'll have the person and you'll bring them back like that here. This is almost a neutral type of position, but it's still technically not a neutral position. Now the difference here, when I'm here like this, when he goes to turn his hips, my hooks still stay in, okay? So here, my hooks still stay in. So that'll bring us to number one. Number one way to keep your hooks in a little bit longer is to kind of bridge them back, right? Make them almost kind of lay on top of you, because what you're doing is you're taking away the ability for them to twist their hips in a more exaggerated motion, and it's also taking away the mat, right? The mat is technically their friend once they start twisting the hips, because once he twists his hips, and I'm leaning to one side here, so let's just go, I'll take Russ's back here. When I'm here like this, and Russ starts twisting his hips, what's happening is I don't have anywhere for my legs to go. The mat is technically sandwiching my leg in between the mat and his body. So my thigh is stuck, which makes it hard for me to lift my ankle up here. My range of motion is very limited because I'm leaning on to one side. However, if I have Russ here like this, and this is going to apply a lot if you're doing things like rear naked chokes and so on and so forth. If I'm here like this, right, I have this position, now the mat is no longer in my way. So when he goes to turn his hips here, it becomes much harder for him to start clearing the hooks out. Even when he goes to use his hands, it becomes much harder for him to use his hands. Now see, he's bringing me to one side, but notice what I'm doing with his upper body. I'll show you. As I had him up, and he started trying to bring me to one side, this is something that you couldn't see. I started turning my arms the opposite direction. And the reason why I started turning my arms the opposite direction is because it actually makes it harder for him to drop me fully to that side. This is like that, you know, invisible jiu-jitsu stuff. So when I'm here like this, and I have my position, and we're up here, and he goes to bring me to his left side, I turn his body to the right here. So try to go to your left, try to lean all the way down to your left. Here it becomes much harder. If he tries to do it the opposite way, I start turning him this way. So what I'm doing is, now I'm going to sit him up just so you can see. Now the only reason I'm sitting him up is so you can see from a better view what I'm doing, is when he went to go lean to his left, I started doing this. I started steering wheeling his body to the right because it physically made it harder for him to get to that side. Now I'm not going to say it's going to stop him completely, but what it's going to do is it's going to delay him from getting to that side. It's going to distract him and possibly even open up attacks for you. When he went to go to this side, what I did was I did this. I started shifting him the opposite direction. So that also keeps my feet in longer. And also when I'm putting this like torquing motion on his upper body, he focuses less on what he's doing with his hands. Because when I'm here like this, and we're back, right? I'm here like this, and he goes to lean to one side. Here, I'm going here, and I'm already going to be starting to work my possible chokes on him, coming through and then working my finishes. Because he's focusing on twisting his body and doing all these different things. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% going to happen every single time, but you're opening yourself up for opportunities, all right? That's number one. And there's more aspects to this kind of like laying back style back mount. Driving your hips in, really pulling them back, so then that way it creates kind of pressure in their back as well. It's almost like a spine lock type of a situation. But you need to be active with your upper body, and my hooks are still active as well. Now let's say, for example, he does get me to one side, either side or the other. I have to deal with that. If I don't deal with it, eventually he's going to get my hooks out, and he might get out. The reason why I say he might get out is because if you have good upper body control, you can still keep the person's back, all right? So if we're here like this, and I have my position, and we're leaning to one side like this, first things first, right? I need to make sure that my hip isn't like just kind of like too far out. What I mean is, if we turn this way, right? I don't want my hip bone, my right hip bone here, like way back here. The reason being is because when my right hip bone is way back here, it's making it easier for him to actually turn his hip. So this is where we start getting like real technical here. When I'm here like this, and I want to lean into my strong side, I'm actually going to twist him inside here like this. Now I have him here. Now when he goes to turn his body, it's much harder. Like this is like stupid simple at this moment here. Here, go to turn. Much harder for him to do this. I'm gonna almost guarantee you, most people aren't gonna teach you this, right? Because I've never seen it. When I'm here like this, watch what I do. I twist his upper body first. Okay? And now we have to do this when it's in like a transition, because the reality is we very rarely ever start like this. So let's say, for example, Russ was in the turtle position, right? And I was here. So I'm here like this. Boom, I come through. Now look, I'm already twisting him at this moment. So I'm already here like this. Now when he goes to flatten his hips to the mat, it's much harder. He goes to pull my heels off of the hooks. It's much harder. My feet are active. And then I'm already going to be working my grips. I might need to make a separate video of this and put it on the Grapplers guide, just explaining this specific concept and not have it in this very long video. But this small little thing changes the entire dynamic of him being able to turn his hips. Just me shifting his upper body and me making sure my hip isn't too far out. It's general biomechanics, all right, which is one of my best classes I ever took in college, because it opened up my mind a lot in regards to a lot of things. what I'm doing is I am covering the space that he needs to make a better position. And it could possibly apply on the other side as well. Whoever's winning the hip game here is winning this particular situation. So when I have Russ's back here, we'll turn this way. So now I need to stop him from controlling the weak side now, right? So weak side means his shoulder is free. He starts leaning himself this way. It's the same thing. Look what I'm doing. I'm bringing his body to my right. If I bring my body to his right, it makes it hard for him to twist his body to the left. Gonna twist? It's very difficult for him to do this. When he goes to use his hands to start clearing the legs out, right? He starts opening possibilities for me, even on the weak side. He opens up the ability for me to get one-on-ones on him. He opens up the ability for me to put my foot down, switch, and then trap his arm and go for things. But the fact of the matter is, let's just do it one more time. Yeah. Is I realize the side that we're on, and I realize that the direction that he needs to turn his hips, and I take that away from him. So I'm here like this, right? We end up on this side. I take his upper body, and this is very hard to see. Look at my upper elbow. I'm driving it down this way. I'm steering wheeling him basically to my right because I don't want him to turn his left hip down, which would take this hook out. So now when he goes to do that, it's much more difficult, and this also makes it easier for me to switch to the strong side. So I turn his upper body, switch to the strong side, and now we're good again. That goes to the next thing, which is adjustment, right? Adjusting to sides. Ideally, especially no-gi scenario, I want to be on the strong side. With the gi, it varies, right? Strong side with the gi, it is certain types of chokes. Weak side with the gi is other types of chokes. You know, weak side is generally bow and arrow chokes, which is the strongest gi choke in the world, in my opinion. Strong side is other gi chokes. So with the gi on, it varies a little bit. However, let's go back. So I have Russ's back here. I have my position. I'm here. I'm in this side, but I'm making sure I'm turning his body this way so he doesn't turn his hips. Try to turn your hips. It becomes much more difficult for him to turn his hips because I'm bringing his body the opposite direction, right? And then I can start going for my attacks. I'm going for my attacks right here because this is my strong side. I'm making it harder for him to move, okay? So technically, I'm not going to go anywhere. I might use this position so I can get him up, right? Because I might feel more comfortable doing that. So I'm here like this. Let's say I'm here and I feel like he's still super strong. I use that so I can now bring him up to this position. And then I can start attacking him and going for my submissions from here by doing the upright position. Or we're here like this. We're stuck on the weak side. I'm rotating him, rotating him, rotating him. And by rotating his upper body, it makes it easier for me to move him and switch him to the strong side. So let's say I'm holding this, right? He's trying hard to turn his hips and I feel like, nope, I don't want to be there. I use that. I use the position that I'm working to plant my foot down and bring him to the opposite side and keep my hooks in. This is just the start, honestly. There's so much more to it in regards to keeping your hooks in. There's lacing the leg across and reaching across to the opposite leg. What I mean is this really quick. Just to give you a quick teaser. Is I'm here like this, right? He starts hipping out, and I do this, like that, right? And I use that to get my foot back in, okay? If I did it on the weak side, because it all applies, we're here, he starts hipping out. Keep going. Look, I hook his leg, and I use that to lift him up and get my hook back inside. From there, that way I keep the leg control. Many, many different aspects. I can go on and on and on about many different things that you can do. But what I want to do is I just want to open your eyes a little bit, give you some little tweaks that will help you out. I mean, in general, this is a long video already, but hopefully these pointers will help you go into the proper direction for keeping better back control by focusing on keeping your hooks in. We didn't even talk about the upper body yet. So play around with this. If you have any questions, comments, post below. Peace.